What up? What up? We're ready for a little Thursday night football. Fantastic matchup. The Chiefs, the Chargers. We're expecting points. Certainly the sports books are expecting some points on this night. And we'll be breaking this down for No House Advantage and all the lines you can find there. Whether you want to bet against the house over there, whether you want to play against other peers. We'll tell you all about it if you haven't played a whole lot on No House Advantage. I'm Pete McCarthy with Geoff Ulrich, Tyler Zander producing. And Geoff, it was successful last Thursday. You said, fade the Bills backup running back James Cook. That was almost like a free square, even with the Bills running away with that game. And it was a profitable night for me. I appreciate you had some great advice.
Yeah, no, I mean, like let's thank the real hero, which is the Stokastic, projections. They were all over at James Cook, and then lots of great calls from last Thursday. Actually, I think there's a couple other ones. So it feels like last year at this point, the last Thursday night game, but there's definitely a couple there. And again, check these out. We got the No House Advantage projections up, and
and they're free.
Another big game. I mean, another marquee game to look at here. So
no, great game. And be sure to check out those projections. You can check out the website over at Stokastic. They're free today. Go to NFL projections, and then you can check out No House Advantage. And it's actually laid out really great with median projections, which is really what we're doing when we're looking at over-unders like this. It'll give you percent chance of these things hitting, and we'll be working off that sheet for much of this show. Of course, give us a like, subscribe, keep up with all of our shows, our DFS offers, our giveaways. Once you do subscribe, hit that notification button. You get alerts when our shows go live. Be sure to also check out today's free premium tools and data, which is MLB player projections. And if you are still playing MLB DFS, there's no reason not to, right? We got Tuesday, Wednesdays, Fridays here. Sign up for MLB night slates on DraftKings. Oh, we offer MLB night slates on DraftKings 100% free for the remainder of the season, which gives you a great chance to give our tools a shot before purchasing. Just click the DK Night Owl link below to check out tonight's tools and projections. As far as what's happening at No House Advantage tonight, you got 3 contests to choose from: a $15 entry, $10K to first place, 1,600 total entries there. There's also a $5 entry, which can get up to $1,000 for first place, and then a $10 triple up as well. Geoff, just big picture of this game. The Chiefs are favored by 4. The over-under is a big number of 54. Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, the stars in this game. What are we expecting big picture as these two AFC West rivals go at it?
Yeah, I mean, like these two teams have played to a lot of close games. I mean, the Chargers have been really good at keeping up with the Chiefs over the last couple of years since Herbert's basically come to town, taking them to overtime a couple times. Obviously, got wins last year. The Week 17 game, or whatever it was, Week 18, it really doesn't count because the Chiefs weren't there. I mean, but they've been good. I mean, these have been close games, have been competitive games, generally one score. Like I said, Chargers have come out on top, but this is an interesting spot. I don't know if I'd necessarily just go by that trend here. The line here is interesting. It's 4.5, and then it's kind of dipped. Like it was a 3.5. It's simmering around 4. It definitely feels like, with getting more than 3 points on the Chargers, that you should be playing the kind of a close game. But I do think there's a lot of scenarios here. And again, we're talking props today on No House Advantage, that there's a lot of scenarios where, the Chiefs maybe dominate this game. And that leads to some overs on the Chargers receivers as well. So that's kind of a scenario that I'd be looking at, especially for No House Advantage. Obviously, you're creating parlay kind of entry lineups, obviously 7 down through 1. But that's the game I'm expecting. I think there's a definite scenario here where the Chiefs dominate. But you've also got to take into account, the Chargers have made this a close series. So with Herbert.
And I think really what's interesting is both of these receiving cores, right? Because we know the Chargers agree without Keenan Allen. Who's going to benefit from that? DeAndre Carter is one of those guys we're talking about, DraftKings or FanDuel, but he's not on the board at No House Advantage. So, who's going to take advantage of getting those extra targets? And we know Mike Williams kind of all over the place for the Chargers. And even in Kansas City, there's so many new faces there in that offense. Last week, Patrick Mahomes throws 5 touchdowns to 4 different receivers, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire is the only one who catches multiple. So I think there's a lot to figure out on the outside on both of these teams.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, even with, like you said, I don't think Josh Palmer's on the board at No House Advantage either. he's kind of the guy who's slotted in for Keenan Allen in there anyways. But DeAndre Carter, it's almost, in a way, it's almost good neither of these guys is there because it doesn't tempt us. Like DeAndre Carter got the snaps at slot last week. So Palmer has been the fill-in, but like I like the fact that neither of them are there, to be honest, because it doesn't tempt us. I think Mike Williams is really the player you should be targeting here anyways. And I love the fact that, again, our projections, it's one of the stronger ones on the board, like to go over Mike Williams. His yardage is probably, his yardage and receptions kind of projecting with the same amount of emphasis here. We haven't projected for over 70 receiving yards, over 5 receptions. Those are both over his props of 4.5. And then his receiving prop of 64.5 on No House Advantage. So I like this. Mike Williams has gone for 100 and a touchdown in 2 of his last 4 meetings against the Chiefs. I think that attacking the Chiefs on the outside, it's generally it's been a pretty good formula for a lot of teams. They've typically been a tougher team to attack in the slot anyways. So I'm not really sure if I want to chase the upside of a DeAndre Carter, a weaker slot receiver. I think just going with Williams here is where you should be. That's kind of the main prop I'm really focusing on for the Chargers. We do have some other ones, but that one to me, that's the one I want to talk about off the top.
Yeah, there's definitely some different strategies, right? With DFS versus playing the props here, and then also trying to beat some other people. I guess before we start breaking down the Chargers and the Chiefs, and we'll go team by team here, just a big picture question for you. We talked about last week how you can often gain an edge on the field by taking the unders. And you also mentioned, trying to find some of those lesser names, like staying away from a Mahomes or a Herbert or dropping them maybe a little bit lower. But with a game like this, where we're expected so many points, everybody's excited to see Mahomes and Herbert, put up 30 plus points each and have this shootout kind of a game. Where is there an edge strategically to try to take some of these unders? Or is that something that, is just kind of overthinking if you're going into this on No House Advantage?
No, I mean, it's always something you should be thinking about doing. Again, the tendency with the general public, so to speak, and just general better, I think just betting bettors in general. I mean, I think sharp people do it too, is to lean over on things. And, we always want to be optimistic and that's fine. It's fine to do that. But I think there's always going to be an edge too. If you can notice when, things are just getting I'm buying the top. And I do think there's definitely a couple spots here you can be looking to play unders. I mean, Justin Herbert's a guy who we do have projected to go under his total. I mean, his total on No House is it's 289. So I mean, the medians and stuff like that, we haven't projected. It's not the strongest underplay in the world or anything like that, but it's definitely a spot where we haven't projected to go under. It's a big total. We're not talking about 270 or 275. I mean, 289, we're basically asking him to throw for 300 yards here to get this. And it's not like he can't do it, but I don't mind going under that. The spot I like the most, the player I think that makes the most intriguing kind of under target is Travis Kelce. We actually have him to go over the 6.5 projected receptions, but I think there's a lot of scenarios where this under hits. I mean, his reception prop on a lot of books is 7.5. But the Chiefs, he's obviously going to be their number one weapon. But what one thing we saw from the Chiefs in week 1, they have all these new receivers. They're not afraid to go out there and design plays for them. Mecole Hardman was more, used. Juju Smith-Schuster was used heavily in the start of the game. I think if Kelce isn't working, if they take away Kelce at the start of the game or it's just not working, they'll go other places. I'm not afraid of that. I like what I saw from the Chiefs in that regard. And I think that, again, especially No House Advantage's big contest, going under on a guy like Kelce, going to be really different. I think most people are going to look at the 6.5. It's lower than the sportsbook total and go, yeah, let's hammer the over. We really don't have it projected as a strong over. It's barely over kind of in our projections. So that's one, especially for their big contest, I would lean under.
And you don't have to throw him, in the 7-point spot. You can make yourself different, down lower, throw it the 1 point. I mean, we saw last week on Thursday Night Football, there were a number of people that ended up getting all 7 correct. And I believe, was it a $50,000 first prize? Ended up being a little bit more than 1,000 all the way down. It might've been a 25K I think it was 50 last week. So we saw a number of ties at the top, number of people that got all 7. But yeah, you try to find a way to get yourself a little bit different. You get that hit and you're in a good spot. So we'll break down the Chargers coming up and then we'll look at the Chiefs in depth. and let you know right now, if you're a new Stokastic Plus Platinum or NFL users, you want to give our NFL DFS tools a test run before purchasing, we've got a great offer for you. Get access to all of our NFL DFS tools 100% free for 3 days. This includes full access to all the premium content and tools for NFL DFS that we have to offer on Stokastic.com, including new tools such as our lineup generator and player compare, as well as player projections, ownership projections, top stacks, boom bust tool, so much more. Click the link in the description of this video below to join to activate your 3-day free trial now. And 3 days is pretty good because that's Thursday, and then it gets you all day on Sunday. And remember, Fantasy Cruncher is an add-on that is not included with this trial offer, but it'll get you a lot to play with and get to learn a lot of the tools that we use, whether it be on No House Advantage, on the other DFS sites out there, and so on and so forth. So let's hit the Chargers first. You talked a little bit about Mike Williams. You like the over on him. Justin Herbert is kind of tricky where nothing necessarily jumps out at you. I feel like kind of a sneaky pick that our numbers like is to go over on the half interception line, because then, let's say it is more of a grinded out game than anybody's expecting tonight. It's a little way to get different than everybody pounded the passing yardage over and the passing touchdowns over.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think going over reception or interceptions, on marquee quarterbacks is always a good way to be different. Like, people just don't want to project their favorite quarterbacks or a guy they root for to throw a pick. Justin Herbert's had a pretty high interception rate. Like, it's not a big deal for a young quarterback. Tons of young quarterbacks have high interception rate. Just look at Joe Burrow last week. He probably threw a season's worth in one game. Mm-hmm. But I mean, again, like, we're taking on a quality team here. I mean, we haven't projected. It's a strong play, like for 0.81. So yeah, I would go over that for sure. And again, like, I just don't think it's going to be that heavily rostered a prop in No House Advantages contest. And again, guys, like, overlay is there. So if you're just checking out this video for No House, make sure you do go check out the contest, because it's a different way to play. It's really cool. But yeah, absolutely. But Herbert over an interception. Yeah, we have it projected. We also have Herbert projected, like, his rushing prop total is another one that sticks out, like 20.5 for Herbert in the rushing department. I mean, again, he's an athletic guy. Like, he can go over it, but like, that's not been his tendency. Like, he's not averaging 20 yards rushing really throughout his career. We haven't projected for well under that. I think that's one under that, like, people will get behind, but again, like, it's a strong under for us, so we got to mention it. My favorite place to really go over in this game, I mentioned Mike Williams, but really just the wide receivers on both sides. J.C. Jackson, I haven't looked if he's like confirmed to play yet. Even if he plays, it feels like maybe not 100%. Juju Smith-Schuster looked great last game. We got Marquez Valdes-Scantling. These guys have projections at 45.5 and 50.5. That's extremely low for two receivers in the Chiefs offense in a game that we're expecting to be high paced with Patrick Mahomes. Again, like I mentioned, and you don't even have to take the Kelsey unders if you don't like it, but like, you can pair the Kelsey unders with like these two receivers, and that's how you're projecting your game. You're suggesting like the Chiefs are going to continue along the path that the Raiders showed last week at taking advantage of the secondary that maybe isn't quite as strong in defending as we think. Chiefs integrated these guys seamlessly last week. Like, I'd go over on both these receivers, and we haven't both projected a strong overplays too.
Yes, those are plus plays as far as the Kansas City Chiefs go. So certainly something that you can get behind there. You mentioned Justin Herbert in the under 20.5 rushing yard line. Last week, 4 carries, 1 yard. You look back to last year, he was under that total in 13 of 17 games. So, while, yes, we can visualize in our minds Justin Herbert running for some yardage, that's a pretty big number for him to get to. It is not something that he generally is able to pull off. And you're talking a little bit about No House Advantage and what it's all about. It's the most dynamic fantasy sports platform available today. You can play in pick'em contests versus other people. You get a shot at winning big money in cash. Download the app, choose a contest, select your player props, climb the leaderboard when you make correct picks. You can also test your skills versus the house. You get up to 20 times your entry if you hit all of your picks. Bet up to 5 player prop over-unders that we'll get into as well. And You can do all sports, just NFL on the board today. Sign up now with the link below. Get a first match deposit bonus of up to $25. There's also a ton of overlay there on Sunday, on last Thursday night, so keep an eye on that as the night goes along. Smaller contests with it being week 2, but you never know. And of course, you can check out our NFL lineup generator for No House Advantage, which you can find in the video description below as well. Daily fantasy sports redefined with No House Advantage. So check it out now if you haven't played it. Be sure to check it out. We're working through some of the prop lines that we have there. So we've talked about the passing games a little bit. How about the rushing games for these two teams, Geoff? Jerick McKinnon, I think, is interesting. 14.5 is the line for him on rushing yardage. Last week, he played in 39% of the snaps, so it seems there's more of a role for McKinnon this time around this season.
Absolutely, man. And I think like one thing that, again, it's so easy to overreact to week 1, Isaiah Pacheco, everyone's favorite guy from preseason, coming in, doing some real good cleanup work, but like, let's just pump the brakes. Like, he's the third running back in a game where, like, I mean, I'm sorry, but like, that was one of the least competitive games I've seen in a while, especially for week 1. Right. So, Pacheco getting work, and I don't think he's like going to be nothing. I think that the Chiefs will try and mix him in when they can, but like McKinnon was leaned on by this team last year too, like in the playoffs, and Andy Reid, he likes him. Like, he just likes Jerick McKinnon. You can tell he likes what he does for the offense. He's versatile. Andy Reid likes versatile running backs like that. 14.5 rush total. Yeah. I mean, we got it projected for an over. Again, No House Advantage projections on Stokastic, really good to lean on. And quite frankly, like, they've been really solid on the running backs. Like, we were that's one area last Thursday night where, it was all over it. So this one to me, like, definitely too low. I expect McKinnon will get worked in. Again, closer game. I could even see his snap count and his share count go up. I mean, if the Chargers front can shut down, CEH early, they'll use more McKinnon because, quite frankly, he's probably a better pass catcher, or he's at least equal. And Reed just likes him in those situations. So that's a player in Jerick McKinnon I expect to see. We got him projected for over in receiving yards as well. I'd probably just take the over on the rushing yards. I think that this game will be close, that McKinnon will get enough rushes to get over there. He really doesn't need to do much. Receiving, like they work the short game. He could get like 4 catches for 10 yards or something. So yeah, I'd probably lean rushing if we're choosing between props for McKinnon, but definitely a player we're leaning over on. The 14.5 total in both of them, looking pretty small and not really inflated at all.
Do you want to do Clyde Edwards-Helaire or jump over to Austin Eckler?
Yeah, no, I mean, Edwards-Helaire is, again, it's one of those situations where, like with CEH, obviously, people probably were too down on him coming into the season, and week 1 was a great time to get on him. But at the same time, like, his prop now is up to 50.5. We saw the share count. Like, I don't think that you're going to see CEH push for like 80% of the snaps or like an 80% of the rushing share. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think he could push for like 60, 65% and have a good game, but this is a pretty tough front for the Chargers. So if you're taking rushing yardage overs on CEH, like, this is one where I think the public will go over because, like, again, we're talking like strategy, the prop contest, that I could see like being a popular play. That's in the contest, especially, I wouldn't be afraid to go under that. You respect enough for the Chargers front. I think that the Chiefs will, again, they'll just pass the ball if it's not working early. So, I just think that's the better part of the defense to attack for the Chiefs too. So yeah, I'm kind of into the under on CH. We have it projected for pretty neutral. Like, again, 50.4.5 projection. Like, it's almost right at the number. So no big lean either way there. I would personally be looking to go more under on him in this matchup, and just, again, like, kind of, sell off the hype after the big week 1.
Yeah, and we saw that work on Thursday night a little bit, right? With Donnie Henderson going over his rushing total. Cam Akers barely saw the ball. That was kind of a week 1 figuring out roles situation. It's a little different this time around because at least we've seen the Chiefs one game and how they're breaking it up. But Jerick McKinnon did see a lot of time on the field last week for the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, the Chargers running game, like, it begins and ends with Austin Eckler. This is what he's about. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. We're looking at 60.5 rushing yardage. Our projections leaning towards the under. Also the under on receiving yardage for Eckler at 39.5. It's interesting with this Chargers team, though. Again, where are they going to go with the football without the security blanket of Keenan Allen being there.
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, I was honestly like thinking a little bit stronger projections on Eckler. I mean, these totals they're big, but they're not massive. Like 4.5 receptions for a running back. It is pretty big. Like we're kind of getting into like McCaffrey territory, but like you mentioned, I mean, like we have Keenan Allen out. We have a game script where the Chargers are projected to be behind late. So, Austin Eckler is going to be out there in like 2-minute drills. So it is interesting. And again, like much like the Kelsey props, like Eckler is just a player where I think people are just going to have trouble clicking unders on. So if you're taking part in those big contests, like I think Eckler is a good way to get contrarian lineups in. If I was making like in the versus the house where we're making our own tickets and get up those big multipliers, I don't know if I'd be so prone to go under on Eckler. I got too much respect for him, and there's too many scenarios here where I think the Chiefs can just be ahead, and Eckler just gets there in garbage time for you. So I'm not like, he's one where I'd almost just like, maybe leaning over on like the receiving yardage or the reception, but that's just me. That's just my lean. Like the projections have him as a pretty decent underplay, to be honest, across the board, even rushing yardage where, that's the one where 60.5, that's a pretty big rushing prop, especially because the Chargers do have a couple, legit power backs they can mix in. So sure. I think if I'm really leaning anything on Eckler, like that under on the 60.5 sticks out. And again, we have him projected for like 52 yards. So it's a pretty strong underplay, but I don't know if I'd lean under on the receiving. There's just too many scenarios here where the Chiefs are passing the ball late for me, and Eckler just kind of scrapes by. One Chief we do have a pretty solid over on that is up on the board, and he played week 1 is Gerald Everett.
Yes,
and he should get a boost, right? Because Keenan Allen working that slot a little. Again, tight end against the Chiefs, not a bad play. 39.5 on no house, got him projected for about 44 yards. I'm fine with that. I mean, Everett's a guy who's got some athleticism. You can pick up, big chunks for us. So yeah, I think that's a pretty natural overspot too.
Yeah, you could be in that possession role. So you could look at the 3.5 receptions line that's on no house advantage. We like the projections, like the over on that for Gerald Everett. Had 3 catches last week, but you get to game plan a little bit, knowing that you're not going to have Keenan Allen going into this game on Thursday night. So maybe Everett sees a bigger role in this game. One thing that jumps out at me playing the pick'em, you only have 11 players to choose from here, right? Because Keenan Allen is out, and don't select Allen for anything. You don't want to be cute and take the under on him. And no, that's going to get you a 0. You're not going to get any points in that spot. So don't do that. So you're only looking at 11 players. We can only do 1 prop per player. So we're playing 7 of these 11 guys. We gotta reach a little bit in some of these spots where, even if it's a player that you don't have a firm feel on over under, you're going to have to get into it a little bit, right? We're going to be getting down into the depth. It's not just the star power here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's why, like I mentioned, when we're talking about the Chiefs receivers, I mean, even like we can go down and look at Mecole Hardman. I mean, I just like the way the Chiefs used all 3 of those guys. And I know that it might seem like it's going to be a week-to-week headache, but if we're getting low props on all of them, like it's very viable where we get more, like over 50% of weeks where they're just going over like 50 yards, all 3 of them. And maybe it's spread out across the board a little bit, but it still works out where they're all pretty productive. And again, we're not talking about like our fantasy team. We're talking about props here. Like we just want to look for the edges. And I think that there's an edge in keeping to target these Chiefs wide receivers and not just Juju. I think Juju is probably the strongest play on the board, although we actually have Valdez-Scantling projected as the strongest play on the board for his over under on yards, 45.5. And I'm down with that. I mean, I think he's kind of like the de facto number 2 with kind of Mecole Hardman, and Hardman might be used a little bit more in the red zone, which I think might actually take away from his yardage a little bit, but Valdez-Scantling more the midfield guy. That's fine. I mean, I think these guys will have enough to eat. I think they're going to get schemed up, and I think the Chiefs are just going to use them a little bit more, in those shorter flat routes, and I just think that they're going to be good over targets most of the year. So again, Chargers defense good. Their secondary looked a little discombobulated week 1. No JC Jackson week 1. We'll see if he's back or even 100%. But until that gets sorted out, I think this is a good target for the Chiefs wideouts.
Yeah, the Chiefs, they do spread it out. We saw that last week. But as you mentioned, the props are not high. We're not getting over 80 yards on this. And we're looking at pretty low numbers for all these Chiefs receivers as they figure out exactly how it's all going to come together here. Hey, you could bet $10, win $200 with BetMGM if any team scores a touchdown. I think that might happen tonight. Click the link in the video description below to claim your free $200 right now. So you can check that out over at BetMGM. Just quickly, pick 'em is a little different because we're playing the same props. We're playing them against other people. So that's an area where you can get a little cute to try to get to the top of the leaderboard. You also have versus the house on No House Advantage, and very similar props here. So it's not that different that we're talking about. It's just the ones that you love. You don't have to think about game strategy, game theory as part of this. Anything that jumps out at you when you check out some of the props that are sitting there on the over under?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, and again, I mean, you should always be thinking about like correlating and how these props kind of fit in with each other. But especially like for your pick, I mean, we obviously don't have to think about, oh, is this going to be popular, or is how does this game work with like, if I'm making a contest playing against other people. Again, like with when you're making like a multiplier ticket in the versus the house, I mean, you should be looking to kind of play props together that are going to make sense on both sides. So, I like Mike Williams for receptions to go over that. I mean, you can think about, you can think about Herbert going over, I guess, his total to play with it or something like that. But even on the other side, I mean, if we like Mike Williams to go over his receptions or total, it probably means like one of these Chiefs receivers are probably having a good day too. And I still think like, pairing the receivers on both sides of the game, mainly Mike Williams on the Chargers, but Valdez-Scantling or Juju on the other side. I think we've got the high point total. We've got two teams who like to pass the ball, play at good paces. I just those are two spots where I would feel comfortable with. Too many questions for me just around the running backs to really like love any overs there. I think, and again, like you could take, if you're playing Juju and you want to pair it with like CH under and know how letting you do it, then do it. Like, correlate it that way as well. So lots of different ways to play in the multipliers. But, for me, like my favorite props to attack tonight, it's going to be Mike Williams, and then it's going to be the Chiefs wideouts. And I think that, again, like, if you can take one of these props, like the Juju prop probably being my favorite, you go over it, you can use it on other plays throughout Sunday if they're up there on No House Advantage. So, I think this game offers some really solid plays, and the wide receivers are probably the most solid for me.
And one thing that's interesting, Josh Palmer isn't available in the pick'em, but he is available if you play versus the house. So if you have a strong feel on him, the over-under in the receiving yards for Josh Palmer is 45.5 yards. You could jump on that and mix in some props together as Geoff was talking about. You throw it over on a Chiefs receiver, essentially kind of run it back, which would be the DFS way of explaining that.
And I think the other thing, sorry, before I cut you off, is like, when you're building those tickets, you can look at like the lines and how they compare. Like I mentioned the Kelsey line, maybe for the contest you're taking his under, but his under 6.5 on like a ticket on a multiplier, I don't think you need to do that because we're kind of like his line at a lot of books is 7.5. So that's one I just stay off. Like I'd probably just stay off Kelsey making those tickets. But these other ones like Juju, I think these lines probably a little bit smaller than a lot of the books. So make sure you're checking out and how they compare and stuff.
Of course, give us a like, subscribe, keep up with all of our shows, our DFS offers, our giveaways, and much more. And once you do subscribe, hit that notification button, get alerts when our shows go live. We got a big day ahead here on Stokastic DFS. MLB Live before lock will be coming your way a little early today at 5:30 Eastern. And then we're back to the NFL, breaking down the showdown, the big Thursday night game here between the Chargers and the Chiefs. Deeper Dive starts up at 6:30 Eastern time. Geoff Ulrich, pleasure once again. I'm Pete McCarthy. Thanks so much for joining, guys, and good luck tonight.
See you guys.